tangible outcomes at the end, and also ensure that the teams, the farmers that will go through them are highly empowered. So I wish to welcome you and wish all of us good listening and deliberations, sharing in this webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Max. So over to you, Mr. Baha. Kindly share your screen. Okay, proceed, Mr. Baha.
Sorry, Edwin, is it me or it is everybody that can't hear Baha? Maybe it's me.
No, we can't hear. We can't hear too.
I can also not, I can't hear.
Mr. Baha, use your audio. Don't use the headset.
I've not heard anything from the beginning. So, Edwin, always plan B. You share the presentation while Baha.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you now. Don't use that headset, Mr. Baha. Just speak directly to your laptop. Mr. Baha, can you hear me?
Just 1 minute, 1 minute.
Now there we can hear you.
Hi, Edwin, can you hear me now?
Yes, but you have to be more audible than that.
Okay.
And start from the beginning.
All right, I will. Are you able to hear me now, colleagues?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you. Let me Let me start from, yeah, so I was saying my presentation flow will actually be guided by that protocol, which you can see on your screens. I will give a project background. I will also say something about FFSPS, the assignment objectives, the expected deliverables, and the activities that we went through. Of course, it will be interesting for us to be able to share with you the sample PTD results. I will briefly zero in on gender issues in aquaculture field schools, the achievements so far and possible outcomes, share with you challenges and lessons learned, and then success factors in aquaculture field schools, and perhaps give a way forward. I hope now I am loud enough.
Please reshare. Yeah, please reshare your screen now.
I reshare.
We are not seeing your screen.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
You stop the screen sharing, then you start afresh.
I stop screen sharing.
Then start afresh. Start sharing your screen.
Am I good now?
Yes, but put it on full slideshow, yeah, and then proceed.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so let me say that I am presenting this on behalf of FFS Promotion Services, which was actually the service provider in rolling out the Aquaculture Business Development Program as contracted by FAO Kenya. Now, my presentation will take that flow, which I have already shared. And then I was at the point where I was sharing with you across the board of the wider communities of poor rural households involved in aquaculture in the targeted communities or counties. And here the target counties were actually 7 counties in the initial stages. Allow me to say that when the program started, this was through what we call the Technical Cooperation Arrangement, or a TCP, between FAO and the participating counties, which were 7, as I've already said. And the program had 3 main components. Component 1 is smallholder aquaculture development, which is looking at the efficiency of productivity for the fisher folk. And then component 2 is looking at the efficiency of the aquaculture value chain across the board. And obviously for program coordination and management, we had component 3. The section where FFS comes in is heavy on component 1, where the implementers were supposed to work closely with aquaculture field schools. Allow me also to say that the TCP, in terms of the funding pocket, was 250,000 US dollars, but the money that was to support the implementation of the aquaculture field school through the letter of agreement between FAO Kenya and FFS PS was 2.5 million. 6 to channel funds and supported FAO to vote in the implementation of the Aquaculture Business Development Program. The bigger program here is supposed to be an 8-year program. The first 2 were rolled out by FAO through the TCP arrangement, which is the bit that I'm going to share with you. And then from FAO, we had a letter of agreement between FFSPS, which is Farmer Field School Promotion Services, and FAO, largely to allow the FFS implementation with the fisher folk with a view of ensuring that the project outcomes are reached, if not the project impacts realized. Allow me to quickly share about FFSPS. FFSPS is an institution which is has positioned itself to be a reference body and source of expertise in participatory learning approaches. So today I come in through FFSPS because I was involved in this program to support the community implementation of farmer field schools in the participating counties. FFSPS exists for one reason: to provide and support quality training and also agricultural services, of course, through participatory learning approaches, mainly to ensure that other players, specifically service providers and farmers, attain sustainable livelihoods among themselves. We have quite a number of objectives, but the overarching goal is to encourage and support agricultural service providers and stakeholders for capacity building, especially in the use of participatory and experiential learning approaches. And that has been done over the years as FFSPS in many other programs. But allow me to just mention 2 quick ones here in terms of specific objectives to increase skills and knowledge among service providers in FFS and participatory learning. And perhaps that is why we are here today. Enhancing quality of farmer field school interventions cause analysis, documentation, and dissemination of FFS and participatory learning experiences, not to mention the, and here I must say that FFSPS commercialization in Kenya, because the trainers from FFSPS, quality enhancement, PS in capacity building through within the country and within the region. As FFSPS, we are guided by certain values in terms of how business is done within the institution. We uphold high levels of professionalism, integrity, creativity, and innovation, just to mention but a few. Now, having said that, allow me now to get into really the assignment objective, which has brought us together today in terms of getting a platform to share the experiences. FFSPS was given a letter of agreement to provide support in the implementation of the project, mainly in the seasonal learning for Homa Bay, Kakamega, Migori, Vihiga, Kirinyaga, Meru, and Nyeri counties in Kenya. And as I've already said, this was a 2-year program, but for the letter of agreement was to run for precisely 6 months, December 30th. The key project outputs are stemming from the overall outcome of the project, which was smallholder aquaculture productivity and profitability increased, which is really part of program component 1. but we had three outputs that we were looking at. One is to capacity of aquaculture field schools on business-oriented production developed. Two, extension service provision at both public and private levels strengthened. And finally, effective coordination, monitoring, and documentation of project actions. We had to ask ourselves if we wanted to reach the program objectives or impacts, then we must go through some journey as guided by the result chain theory of change. We are probably all aware that the aquaculture subsector is dogged with quite a number of problems or challenges, which range from low fish production and structured markets all the way to shortage of high quality fingerlings, just to mention but a few. So the dejected fisher folk here was supposed to be moved from this kind of scenario which is existing at the moment to where we can say they are happy and enjoying aquaculture as one of the enterprises within the farming communities. So therefore, we were guided by a number of activities which we were supposed to roll out. One of them was training of extension officers on the aquaculture field schools. Then identification of beneficiaries on the ground, verification of the groups, establishment of the demo sites, the disbursement of grants. Finally, we ask ourselves whether we'll be able to reach the outputs, which is capacity of AFS built and strengthening of extension service provision. Of course, effective coordination was one of the expected outcomes. Having understood the journey into giving us the results, then we set out to do some work. But remember, since we are talking of aquaculture field school, which is relatively new, let me say relatively new, quote unquote, but some work has been done. I am aware of field schools in some parts of Africa. But we said we must start with the development of an aquaculture field school curriculum. So what did we do? We had to look at the key field school principles and concepts, ranging from the key cornerstones, concept like what is this, what is that, the discovery, learning, PTD, professor to cross-cutting issues. On the other hand, we have, of course, the main curriculum on aquaculture. So this was going to include preparation and introduction, best management practices ranging from pond construction to feeding, to finally pests and diseases. Quite a number of topics there. Best management practices is quite heavy, but not to forget public health and environmental concerns. So all that was incorporated in the field school curriculum. Allow me to mention here that we therefore have a draft field school guide for aquaculture field schools that I hope FAO will soon finalize. That we were expecting to have it as a guide for all the facilitators on the ground. It is already at an advanced stage because we already did the draft curriculum, and it is with FAO. Then with the FFS curriculum in place, of course, the journey started with the training of 42 participants drawn from the 7 counties and 2 people drawn from the National Agricultural Research Training Center for Aquaculture in Sagana, and 1 gentleman from Ramogi Aquaculture Institute, Ramogi Institute of Aquaculture Training, which is in Kisumu, Riyadh. So we had a total of 42 in terms of gender segregation. I must say, out of the 42, only 6 were female, which is a little bit unfortunate. That even this first round of training, the ladies were quite very few. Now, having taken through these extension officers through a 21 hands-on training on field schools so that they can be able to implement aquaculture fisheries, aquaculture field schools, we let them go out to identify the beneficiaries or the participating groups. And we gave them a guide in terms of the selection criteria. And one of them was to ensure that the group or the members having come together must end up being a duly registered group with a valid certificate. Secondly, there must be a group constitution, and a site must be identified for season-long learning. They must have an evidence of an active bank account, since FFSPS was supposed to channel the grants into their accounts. Evidence of visionary leadership, duly filled group proposal request. But what was also equally critical was the group must have developed a learning curriculum. Then also evidence of learning has kicked off. Then the learning sites identified. Remember, we have 42 extension officers out there. All of them have gone to initiate two groups each, so we have a total of 84. And we were supposed now to identify and support out of the 84, 14 groups, 2 per county. So we had to come up with a selection criteria. Eventually, we ended up with the following names here. You can see the county, the facilitator, the group, and the bank details. This was the verification exercise. I had to go together with my team, a lot of paperwork and shuffling with the county officials on the ground to be able to see whether they have done the right things. So eventually, from 84 groups that were brought forth, we zeroed in on 14, which we were going to support with 100,000 each for the implementation of the aquaculture field school. This money was to be given in 2 tranches. The first 50,000, and then when they are almost doing a total of 100,000. Let me say that the establishment of aquaculture field schools and learning went through, having selected the 14 groups now as FFSPS being the service provider, of course, with close collaboration from our funder FAO, we were able to plan and see what is happening on the ground. So across the board, the planned activities included things like site selection, the season-long planning, the learning itself, the setting up the farm trials, field days, and graduation. That was part of the season-long planning. And you can see here on your right, there is a field curriculum based on what we had already shared right from the beginning of this presentation. This season-long curriculum was to take a total of 35 weeks. Something close to 8 months for this. Because field school is that were available to the facilitators together with the fisher folk. One was we could possibly have experimental options on comparing the effect of stocking densities. Number two, the comparison between the growth rate based on the type of feeds. So we could have a group that will be looking at issues of commercial feed versus the farmers' practice. 3, comparing polyculture and monoculture systems. 4 is to compare mixed sex and monosex tilapia. 5, species suitability trial based on the location and area. In some areas, we are cold areas, some are relatively warm. Do we do tilapia or do we do catfish? So on trial. Effect, another option, and then the last one here is effect of quality of fingerlings on pond performance, because the number 7 was one critical area for the program, because most of the farmers had complained really that when they got the fingerlings from the rivers, definitely once in a while they could see some variations in their fish. So the idea here was to be able to guide the farmers that, look here, just like in maize or any other thing or any other livestock, you need to go for quality fingerlings, and the only way is to look at where do you get these fingerlings and then the effect of that, without looking like you are supporting a given stockist or a given hatchery business person. And then you can see here on my right, this is an example of a PTB designed by one of the groups. I think this must be Umoja Sango in Kakamega. At this juncture, then, I will wish to take you to the next level very briefly. In terms of, we need to have a quick understanding of how much investment is required, for a farmer to operate optimally and be able to say, I am in business. The example I'm giving here was actually derived from a discussion with farmers in Homa Bay, one of the groups in Homa Bay, East Kasipul Bondo to be precise. And what are we looking at? The pond size here is actually 10 by 30, which means we are talking of 300 square meters, which is the standard. And looking at the costs, we want to ask ourselves, is it okay for us to get into aquaculture field schools and run aquaculture as a business, or it's going to be a waste of time? This mathematics here is telling us that depending on your targeted weight of the fish at the end of the season, whether you are aiming at 350 grams fish or 500 grams, whichever way, you will be able to get something in terms of profits. With 300 square meters, we are actually stocking 1,500 fish at a stocking density of 5 fish per square meter. And if our targeted weight is going to be 350 grams, then we expect to have, at the end of the day, 157,500 shillings, which means against the expenses of 100,000, we expect something like 57,000 to be our profits. If the target weight is higher, then profits are likely to be more higher. Have some basis of discussion. Yes, aquaculture field schools, and I know here, Ori, you really wanted to hear what we are doing on the ground, and here we are. This is a typical FESA sheet, Fish Ecological System Analysis. And of course, we have the normal things, but I just want us to zero in here where we have the growth parameters. This is the area where most of us are likely to be interested in. Now, depending on the problem that you are addressing, depending on the target weight, the general information might be able to change. But initial fry biomass will mean you are looking at the biomass, which is for the fry that you have taken from the hatchery into your pond. Practically, you don't normally use fry. But in the event that you are going to use fries, then you need to get the initial fry biomass. In most cases, we use fingerlings, which are baby fish for that matter. So we may want to talk about fry, but in most cases, we'll go for the fingerlings. Now, if you're using the fingerlings, then you need to get the initial fingerling biomass. And at every stage of your FESA, you will be getting the average biomass of your fingerlings or fish as the time goes by. The other thing that you need to be looking at is, The other thing that you need to be looking at is the initial fish stock is very important when you are looking at growth parameters in terms of the numbers. The initial fish stock, this might be here or it might go into the general information because it will also be able to guide you in terms of survivability and things like that. Then we also have the length of the fingerlings and the weight of the fingerlings, which is the one most of the farmers who are dealing with. And eventually, you need also to get the biomass at the end of your harvest. So these are some of the things that we need to record here. Very, very important. But at the same time, critical environmental parameters must be recorded for aquaculture in terms of temperature, dissolved oxygen, nitrates, nutrients, which we have simple testing kits that are available in the market that are supposed to assist them to do that. But by and large, things like water quality in terms of the turbidity. So they need to have something like the Seichi discs to be able to look at the turbidity of the water, the diseased fish, the weeds present, so that they can be able to make management practices. So basically, that's how the ISA or the FESA sheet is supposed to look like, and it will really depend on some of the key things that will maybe change. The information here will be on the problem that is being addressed. I have attempted to give ourselves here what happens on the ground. These are two examples of FESA sheets from some of the groups that I visited in the journey of implementing and supporting the aquaculture field schools in the 7 counties. And you can see really here, the farmers have been able to talk about the weight, the length, and here they have also given the information that is required. Interestingly also, so that they can be able to say, this experiment has been able to give us results, is the aspect of documentation. And on this, I have also given three results from 3 groups that were participating. So the first one is Umoja Sango Aquaculture Field School. This is in Kakamega County. And the group was looking at the effect of feeding frequencies on fish growth. 3 times a day and 4 times a day. 3 times a day and 4 times a day. 3 times against 4 times, because in Kakamega, especially in this group that they were experimenting, they were looking at 3 times as the farmers' practice. They took 3 times a day as the farmers' practice. And then 4 times is the new thinking. So you can be able to see from June, there was very little to record. The length and the weight were very minimal, but August, we can already see some change and increase in both the length and the weight. And it is going like that throughout. And what we can be able to see, the light green here is 3 times, and the deep green is 4 times a day. The conventional feeding regimes, I'm told, is usually 5 times a day. So here we're looking at 3 times against 4 times. And what is the growth performance like? So if we start from August here, we are recording something a little bit less than 4, let's say 48 centimeters in terms of length. That is August. But when we look at it in the size of weight has increased. So definitely we are talking about a fair increase and definitely an effect on the feeding frequencies on the fish growth of the tilapia fish. These are some of the simple experiments that the farmers were able to do, and this group is still ongoing. They have not yet done their field days, so we hope we will be able to go back and be able to get more results. This is just one of the groups that I thought I should be able to capture their data. Then the second one is another group in Homa Bay, which is Kasipul Bondo, AFS PTB results, and they were looking at the effect of type of feeds on tilapia fish growth, type of feed. So we have this on the left here, sorry, I didn't put the category. On the left here, this is the local made fish, the local made fish feed, and here is the commercial fish feed on the other side. You can see length here is in light green. And then we have that significant difference in terms of the weight of the fish, which obviously tells us that yes, indeed, the feeding has an effect on the growth of the fish. Scientists will take this to the next level to be able to determine what exactly, how much the nutrients we have fish, but that is, we need to be able to shift in terms of our thinking. Giving them kitchen leftovers is not enough. We should be able to do ABCD, especially if we are thinking business. Then the final one is from Kakamega again, which is Chewaya AFS PTB results. And they're looking at the effect of stocking density on tilapia fish growth. The first category is 2 fish per square meter. Then the one in the middle is 3 fish per square meter, and finally 6 fish per square meter. So we can be able to see obviously here that there is some difference between the first one, 2 fish per square meter, 3 fish per square meter, and the 6 fish per square meter in terms of the length and even length and weight, not width, length and weight, sorry, not width, but weight. The highest weight recorded here is 301, here is 248, and here it's 94. And then we have also 268, 267 here, 232 here, and 94. In terms of the physical appearance of the fish itself, which I also captured here, this is a 6 fish per square meter here. Then this is 6 fish per square meter. This is 3 fish per square meter, and this 2 fish per square meter. It's evident that there's a difference, there's a significant difference in terms of the fish width, fish length, even fish weight. So having said that, I thought I should be able to share with you gender issues in aquaculture field schools. And I was looking at 6 factors: facilitation or the facilitator leadership, the membership, group dynamics, FES activities, and confidence levels. Remember, I was working with 14 groups, and therefore, in my interaction, I was able to get this information very quickly anytime I interact with them. So allow me to start with the facilitator. Out of the 14 groups that were participating, there was only one lady facilitator. So that tells us that we have a serious problem in terms of gender balance in considering the facilitators. And the youth was only one in Kakamega. So already that shows us we need to start thinking about how can we be able to change this scenario, given the fact that in most cases, but that is a bit different here for the aquaculture field school, because from the facilitator, I want to go to membership. Unlike the other groups where largely more women are in these groups, here we are seeing that in terms of membership, we have more men than women, than youth, largely because of the activities, especially when it comes to the first part, pond construction, putting of lining if there is need, the digging, and then matters of daily feeding and all that. Given that you have to feed the fish at different times within the day, and maybe women have more household chores to attend to. So facilitators, more men. Leadership was very interesting, while it was quite evident that most of the groups were led by men in terms of the executive committee, as you can be able to see here, Interestingly, we must be able to note that I observed that the docket where we have finances, almost all the groups were being handled by women. So that again gives us an indication that perhaps we are increasingly becoming aware that women are better managers of funds than ourselves. I don't know, but that is something that is subject for discussion. So, but it's very interesting that whereas leadership positions at the executive, most of them were chair is a man, secretary could be a man, but the treasurer in all the groups was a lady. Group dynamics were largely managed by women in most of the groups. Something that is quite unique and cutting across most of field schools is that FESA activities or ISA activities largely, because there's a lot of writing here and there, is a preserve for the young ones. One thing that we were also observing behaviors of the people that are participating in these groups, especially in terms of confidence levels. And confidence levels was cutting across the youth, the men and women, almost at par in terms of what they can be able to do and how they express themselves before others, which was very interesting. I must say that this is one area where we need to do more studies, in-depth studies per factor, and looking at what is our interest as a program. Allow me to start the beginning of winding up my presentation by looking at the achievement. There has been an increase in number of aquaculture farmers. Remember, we are coming from a history of the economic stimulus program in Kenya, where people were given inputs, ponds were dug, and then there was no training, there was no nothing, and then this really ended up like being wasted, quote unquote. But with the coming up of the field schools, especially in the number of farmers, which I will give you the numbers in a moment, increase also in number of ponds. Now, increase in fish production is in red here because we could not be exhaustive on this by the time I was doing my report, in the sense that this should be done at the end of. And then increase in fish consumption amongst households. I was able to get this. I could see strengthened networks and linkages amongst players. Of small-scale businesses in Homa Bay, particularly by some young man who is doing hatchery and also doing a bit of stocking, and also in Homa Bay and many other places, as I will share with you in my next, which I've already said. And then improve household incomes, again in red, because this is something that we were not able to do conclusively. But I want to give you the numbers so that I can tie up my narrative here with what is really on the ground per county. In total, the number of farmers that are participating in aquaculture production right now has risen from to 425 groups farmers that are now participating in the vein. We have also had an increase of number of team players within the aquaculture field schools have their own ponds, either 1, 2, or 3. In terms of production, we were not able to do that because we are still only 2 groups have been able to do field days. We are yet to graduate this aquaculture field schools, so the journey is still a bit long for them. So that's why I could not be able to share with you in terms of timing. So is the income. Interesting because in Kakamega and Vihiga, we are seeing families getting fish on their table twice a month. In Homa Bay, twice a week. In Migori, once in a week. In Meru, twice a month. In Kirinyaga, twice a month. And in Meru, twice a month. In the central counties, this is a thing people are yet to take to eating fish. It's basically something to do with not used to. But in Homa Bay, access, and they're already used to that. In Kakamega also, it's now becoming interesting, more or less like, so fish is also one of the things that we can have in our menus. In terms of businesses, we are seeing suppliers increasing in numbers. Vihiga County has invested in a county hatchery. Homa Bay, an increase in suppliers. Migori the same. Meru has also invested in a fish factory. Same with Kirinyaga. And Nyeri, we have suppliers. So by and large, I think the subsector is growing in terms of the value chain development. Production teams are increasing, as well as the players in the industry. Challenges and lessons learned. One is a little bit of delay in grant disbursement because the journey was started a little bit long. We lost about 3 months of waiting for money to be released from FL into the FFSPS accounts. Then we have the serious effects of COVID-19. This has really affected the implementation of the program. Precisely, we had 2 groups which were affected because they lost their members through COVID. So you can know this is in Vihiga and Kakamega. Then high expectation by the group members that they will be given each one of them will be supported as an individual. So we started with high membership, and then that really reduced, and that is why I've captured it as number 5. But we have across the board a very serious shortage of high quality inputs, meaning the feeds and also the fingerlings. Sometimes the groups had to wait for long for them to be able to get the fingerlings they wanted. Lessons learned, however, include technical backstopping and monitoring, very critical. Thank you very much, Alice from FL Kenya. Thank you very much, Martin, who were able to ensure the program continue to be rolled out. Sometimes they were proper coordination amongst players, enhanced performance. I must say that the county governments have been able to play a greater role in ensuring that this program will roll out smoothly. Each county had a desk officer in charge of the aquaculture program, and I think that really helped in terms of planning and rolling out of activities. We also saw that even with COVID-19 and with the guidance of the FAO protocols in terms of running field schools within, in the midst of COVID-19, we shared this with them at some levels, and the facilities able to continue with the training. What are the success contributed to where the program has reached so far? One of them, and very quickly, is the group formation stage. This includes proper identification of interested members, then the leadership, so that they can be able to pass clear objectives and there is clarity of why they have come together. Secondly is the proper identification of the issue that is supposed to be handled. Is it feeds? Is it something that we are dealing with low quality fingerlings? Once that is known, then that has some bearing on the overall performance of the aquaculture field schools. But the other interesting bit was on resource mobilization. And here, the leadership plays a major role, and the county governments also play a major role. Leadership, because if the aquaculture field school group members, especially the executive, is well informed, they will always be knocking doors. I saw in Nyeri, in one of the groups, that the AFS group was able to think outside the box in terms of income generating activities. They resourced and they were able to get support from also community empowerment together with enterprise choice is very, very critical in the sense that if the community is empowered very well, they will be able to understand that this is our enterprise and we must be able to support it. Where we had delays waiting for money from FFSPS, the few groups that went ahead to contribute on their own were far much better in terms of activity implementation as compared to those that sat and waited for money to be channeled in. Of course, facilitation is very key in 2 levels. Secondly, facilitation in terms of money to ensure technical backstopping and to ensure season-long training. So the best performing groups so far were those that had the facilitators with positive attitudes. In Kakamega, we have one. In Homa Bay, we have another one. In Migori, we have another one. And I could see that that really was a big factor, the self-drive of the facilitator. Finally, I must say that Kakamega and Vihiga County as government have taken this to the next level of putting program. So already that is something that gives a lot of hope to the participating groups and even the facilitator, and that really makes them to be able to meet the objectives of the program. I want to conclude by giving a bit of some recommendations. What we said about what needs to be done. One is that county governments in collaboration with FAO should continue supporting the groups, the 14 groups. Two, since FAO was preparing the bigger program to come, and here it is with us, then I expect that Aquaculture Business Development Project to support these groups going forward. Then learning must be able to continue until we have all these participating groups graduating. Now, from the slide where we were looking at the figures, how much needs to be put in terms of supporting the aquaculture business in a 300 square meter pond. Remember, the money that was required in terms of cost of production was 100,000. But we need to factor in there the money for the facilitator. Therefore, on the minimum, I am proposing that if we are going to support aquaculture field schools, then we need to be talking of something close like 200,000, because remember there is no liner also. There was no liner. So if we have to put the aspect of liner, then that means we should be going somewhere closer to that. We need to have an end of project evaluation so that it can be able to inform how best this project was closer to its objectives and its impact, and then for inform outscaling and upscaling. More AFS groups to be supported by ABDP, just to support what I've just said. They need to go outside the 14. In fact, they need to go up to the 152 plus extension officers, which we have trained so far in the ABD program. Interestingly, we need to have a general guidance document that each of these extension officers will have to guide them. So I am appealing to FAO for the finalization of the FFS field training guide. Finally, but by no means not the least, is continued documentation of achievements, best practices, challenges, and lessons learned, so that we can be able to plan better and be able to share within ourselves, in the region, and globally. I take this opportunity to say thank you very much and invite you for some lunch. I thank you. Over to you, and thank you for your kind attention.
Wow, thank you, Mr. Baha. This is a whole 4-year course in aquaculture condensed into a 1-hour webinar. So we just want to say thank you so much. And colleagues, we will share this presentation and including the recording also. So we will request your indulgence for about another 5 or 10 minutes. I know we've gone beyond 11 to attempt some of these questions. So Mr. Baha, there are about 4 questions in the chat box.
In the chat box.
Maybe you could stop sharing the screen.
Okay. Yes.
Good. Then, one of the questions in the chat box is, how did you measure the confidence levels? Then the other thing, how comes the FESA activities were disaggregated when we believe in the field schools? The groups are usually mixed, men and women. How comes now it became like women, youth, and men were doing different FESA activities? And the last question is how frequently do the AFS members meet? Maybe you could respond to those ones while we are looking for the plenary for people who have questions. So if you have a question, you can raise up your hand. Over to you, Baha.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I will start with the last one. How often do the AFS members meet? They will meet either weekly or twice after every 2 weeks, and then FESA, the taking of FESA will also be staggered in this manner, that the fish growth is not as fast as other maybe like crops. So in terms of the weekly seasonal learning, most of the groups were meeting after every 2 weeks for the seasonal learning. And then for the FESA, which included now taking of measurements and all that, will be twice also after, after every 2 weeks. After every 2 weeks. And then also in others, they were doing monthly. So that answers the third question. Then first activities are not they are not disseminated by data. What I was showing there is the data issues were actually six. I was looking at leadership, the facilitators, and who does the first activities mostly. All of them, but the most active ones in terms of recording and in terms of putting the information on the chart are the youth. That is why the number of youth was a little bit higher compared to the others. Then the other one was on how do you measure confidence? There's no confidentiometer, but I was simply looking at the way, how fast an individual comes out to make a contribution. How do they make that contribution? Those are the ways I was trying, nothing qualitative that I was using to ensure that I've been able to look at the confidence levels. Thank you. Over to you, Edwin.
Thank you so much, Mr. Baha. I'm going to look for that confidentiometer something.
Yeah.
So there's a question again with regard to the comparison of feeding. Have you considered the cost of feeds? That is one question. And then the other question, which most people are asking from here, is what innovations have we come up within the field schools for marketing?
Thank you. Cost of feeds vis-a-vis comparative experiments. At the end of the day, we need to assist the farmers to come up with management decisions based on all those factors. So maybe, and just to give an example in the context that the question has been asked, supposing that the best performing feed was the commercial feed. But yes, in terms of expense, it could be a little bit high. Then what do we do? So we need to be able to guide the farmers and be able to share with them the advantages and disadvantages of each of these factors that we are handling in terms of the experimentation, so that by the end of the day, they are able to relate what they are doing with what is likely to happen. Remember, we are encouraging them to do farming as a business. So really, all those factors must be put into consideration. Cost of feeds, availability of the material, at the end of the day must also be able to be put in for them to conclusively say, yes, this is the direction we are going to take based on the results. Over to you. Innovations to support marketing. One way is in the aquaculture field school curriculum, there is now a dedicated topic on networks. I do not want to call this an innovation, but it is something that we need to institutionalize within our field schools, because networks will be able to assist to pull together the players, be able to know which point has which type of fish species, how much has been produced, where do we get feeds. That is one way. Second way is to take advantage of the youth that are participating in this program, because we know that the youth are tech savvy compared to us, and therefore they have an edge in terms of doing online marketing for the groups. I have in mind here a gentleman called Collins. This is a young man in Migori, whom I met during one of the field days of these aquaculture field schools. And the way he positioned himself is that he came even during the field school, the field day, and he's actually operating a fish business, selling feeds and many other accessories to the fisher folk, and at the same time assisting the groups in terms of marketing. So I thought this is something that can be replicated by the other members of the groups. So those are some of the innovations.
Thank you so much.
Over to you, Edwin.
Yeah, thank you. We have one question from Casita Gerald and another one from Jenny Ruheni, and then after that we will be winding up. So Casita.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Baha.
Yes,
love the presentation and the sharing. Okay, like me, my inquiry is about how you've been able to go about, okay, like the feeds, especially most of the times you find that they're inadequate, you cannot easily afford them, especially in fish in aquaculture. And still also, how best can the farmer field school accommodate the traditional experience of fish keeping? Thank you very much.
Thank you. How do we accommodate traditional ideas in fish farming? Remember, in comparative experiments, we start from how much is known by the farmer. And if what they know is one of the options of solving the core problems in that group, then we have no reason not to incorporate them in our experimentation. That's one of the things that we need to do. Remember, in field schools, we need to enhance farmer innovations and knowledge management, and of course, data sharing. So that's one way of handling it. The second one was on Edwin. Remind me the second one from Casita.
About the feeding, about the feeding something.
How do we get the feed? Yes. This is a common problem, I think, in our countries, because I saw in central Kenya, in western, and even South Nyanza, the same problems. So that means, therefore, the stakeholders, more so the county governments and the programs, and I'm happy to acknowledge the fact that in the ABDP program, for instance, there is the second component on value chain development. My thinking is that this is one of the gaps that is going to be identified both by the communities and the primary businessmen and women and the resource partner or the implementer, so that they can be able to facilitate and support. Because what is happening is that we do not have homegrown, quick service, quick providers of the high quality feeds. And this is what we need to work on. We have seen in some of the county governments, they have come out with fish feeds, and I think that is one of the solutions that is coming out. But this needs to be homegrown. It needs to be taken to the level of the community self-connection units, especially when they have come together as networks. That is one of the avenues that I propose as a solution moving forward. Over to you, Edwin.
Madam Jenny Ruheni. Madam Ruheni, I saw your hand up. Okay. I think now Mengesha and then Max. Mengesha. Mr. Mengesha?
Yes, can you hear me, Edwin?
Yes.
Very well.
Baha, my friend, that's really very informative presentation.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Well, most of the points that you have raised, they are going to be used also for our purpose, because we are planning also to initiate similar initiative.
Yeah.
One last point that I would like to raise is with regard to the training of facilitators that you have conducted. Have you followed, the standard, the training of facilitators modules, or have you modified based on the context of the aquaculture field school? Thank you.
Over to you, Baha.
Thank you very much. That field curriculum, and then there is
Sorry, allow me to stop your video.
Also,
because of the bandwidth, allow me to stop your video.
So this needs to be integrated as one. And okay. So allow me to repeat.
Yes, please.
I said, Melissa, you need to integrate aquaculture into field schools or vice versa. And the guidance is the traditional methodology of training field school has to be followed to the latter. No. But be able to incorporate the aquaculture program. For example, if one is handling the facilitator participatory field school curriculum, do it. Are you going to use what is this? What is that? Are you going to employ the non-formal education methods? And for that reason, then we attempted to come up with a draft field guide that really combines together the field school and the main staff of the aquaculture. So it is what I say guide, a step-by-step guide on the how. So yes, Mengesha, yes, we were guided by the field school curriculum to start this solution. Over to you, Edwin.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Baha. We will want to continue this discussion over and over again on our social media handles, and we've promised to share the presentation to all the participants. So I will take this opportunity and say thank you on behalf of the Field Schools Hub, and keep up the spirit and enlighten us more. So over to you, Mr. Max Olupot, for final closure.
Thank you, Edwin. And thank you so very much, Daniel Baha, for such eloquent and well-prepared presentation. This has been a day for learning for me. As I mentioned earlier, aquaculture field schools are not very common, especially in Uganda and some parts of East Africa. So I think this forms a very huge basis for all of us to learn and take this forward. So I would like to say thank you so much to everybody for the active participation, and we look forward to the next session. And perhaps if there is need to repeat this kind of thing with another experience or closer to this, that would be wonderful. I wish all of you a good day, and we keep interacting. Thank you, and kwaheri.
Thank you. So for the last picture, let's put our videos on, including the ones I had blocked. Let's put our videos on. We take our final photo, and thank you for your great participation. Mengesha, I see you are getting younger every day. You young man. What is your secret?
Very much.
Mr. Thomas Kalakio, thank you so much for your participation. We want you more and more.
Thank you so much.
Madam Kendi, we want you more and more on this platform.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Today the videos are not working. What's up?
Are you sure? I'm seeing almost everybody now.
I'm not seeing myself.
Oh.
Even you, I can see you.
Through the elder, I have invited everybody for lunch. You must have seen the big fish, eh?
Yeah, Madam Masi Mwangi, Madam Violet Orodo, Mr. Yego from Nakuru, Madam Ann Isaac. Thank you so much.
Mutumbi.
Mutungi is misbehaving
Where
today.
is
The man
he?
he's always in his kraal, but he's Paulo.
You guys have been a little bit busy, but I've been following on and off.
Okay, very good. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
But I hope all of you are well.
Yes. Moving on.
Thank you.
Nice to see you, Mengesha.
My friend, my brother, is that your harvest at the back?
Yes.
Okay, bye everyone. Thank
Bye.
you. Have a good day.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.